Okay, so a few years ago, when the Deviant historian and I were babies,
Yep.
YouTube babies,
Yeah.
like Muppet babies. You have the Muppet babies. We were YouTube
Or
babies.
Star Wars babies, man.
Oh yeah, like the Baby Yoda.
Yeah, that's going to get you more weeds. Because that shit's adorable. I actually have Baby Yoda hand sanitizer somewhere.
Okay. So yeah. Anyway, when we were much younger YouTubers, I made a video about watches, and I pretty much showed off my entire watch collection. And this is gonna be a very simplified version of that type of video. And quality wise, I think it's going to be leaps and bounds better for a number of reasons. But this is 3 different generations of watches in my family. This one is one that was found recently, and it was my grandfather's watch. And then this was one of my dad's watches. I think this might have been really the only watch he ever owned, or at least owned for as an adult, because he wasn't much of a watch wearer.
Yeah.
That just wasn't him. I think he would have these little digital watches that he would keep in his car and stuff, but he wasn't really big on having a nice watch on his wrist. It just wasn't his thing. He wasn't really much of a watch guy. And then in this box is one of my watches that I currently have, and it's kind of my main wristwatch right now. And the cool thing about wristwatches is that they didn't become acceptable for men to wear until after World War I.
Wow.
Before that, it was pocket watches. If you were a man, you wore a pocket watch. And the attitude back then, I actually read some guys said that they would rather be caught wearing a dress than a wristwatch, because back then the attitude was if you were a man, it had to be a pocket watch, it was a pocket watch or nothing.
That seems pretty inefficient, though.
Well, and that's what led to wristwatches eventually, because during World War I, soldiers wore this kind of leather bracelet that with a compartment to keep their pocket watch in. And that was so they didn't have to keep taking their pocket watch out of their pocket when they were in the trenches.
Yeah.
And after that, it became acceptable for men to wear wristwatches, because it's hey, if our boys on the Western Front wore wristwatches, then it's manly now. So
yeah.
The whole wristwatches on men is a purely post World War I thing. That was one of the ways in which the culture changed after the First World War, because after World War I, everything kind of did change, and that was one example of in the culture how things changed. But to show you that, getting to the actual eye candy here, look at this box.
Beautiful.
Look at the gold, how the gold coloring catches the light with all those lines behind the plastic. It's a little bit stained because of the age, but then you can see there the description of the watch, the Lord Elgin Hellbros watch, which I think that's a funny name for a watch company, Hellbros.
Sends your one-way ticket to hell. The watch will go with you, usually.
Yeah, but this is a really cool. It reminds me, when I look at this, I think of a luxury hotel or something.
Yeah, I can see that.
It's that kind of decoration that you would see in a luxury hotel. But here's the watch itself. This was my grandfather's watch, my dad's dad. And it's a self-winding watch. Self-winding watches came out post-1920. And this technology allowed you to wind the watch once and then wear it, and the watch would wind itself. The motion of you moving your arm would keep the watch going.
So there's no battery.
There's no battery, and you don't have to keep winding it. You have to wind it once to get it going, but then as long as you keep it on your wrist, as long as you wear it every 12 hours or whatever, it'll wind itself. The action of you moving your wrist, moving your arm, that momentum will wind the watch.
That's pretty cool.
That's amazing. I almost can't even wrap my head around that.
I know, it's like a self-propelled watch almost.
Yeah.
Self-motion watch.
I'll put it on here. The bracelet is a little bit too big for me, but sorry, I got to get to focus there. But I'll wind it. And here's another thing that'll kind of blow your mind. I'll wind it a little bit just to get it going. Now, I'll try to zoom in on it here.
It's about 6:47 right now. Almost 6:50.
The second hand almost glides.
It don't tick tock, it just glides.
Yeah, it almost like a Rolex, like a like a roly. Like it does tick, but the ticking is very subtle. It's almost like a gliding motion. It's very impressive for what it is. And I set this watch and I tested it. And I wore it for a couple of hours. And after a couple of hours, it was still keeping pretty good time. It was about a minute behind.
Yeah.
But that's still for like what, a 60-year-old watch or however old it is, probably 50 to 60 years old. That's pretty good. Especially considering that it's been up in an attic in extreme temperatures for like the last half century.
Yeah.
So anyway, my grandfather, he was more of a watch guy. He did have quite a few watches, but of all the watches he's had, this is by far the most impressive one that I've seen of his. So I feel like it's good to like represent him. This is the one watch that my dad went out of his way to buy. He actually drove 70 miles to buy this watch because he was so blown away by it.
What was it in the 70s you bought it, or
it was like in the late 70s, early 80s.
Huh.
And it's an Armatron. And you can see on the box there the font there is kind of cool. And it's another kind of cool box, not as cool as this one. But this is
Did you go to a big city to pick it up? Or?
yeah, I don't want to like give away too many
No,
details,
that's
but
fine. I was just thinking 70 miles.
he went to think of the cities that would be within about 70 miles of here.
Right.
It was one of those.
Okay.
But it's a pocket watch, and it's a digital pocket watch.
Whoa.
And this was back when digital watches were uncommon.
Yeah.
But he loved the idea of a pocket watch being a digital watch.
Yeah, it's like a steampunk thing, dude.
Yeah, it has that. Look at the chain. Look at how like the chain is kind of unusual and interesting. Snaps shut.
Dude, what's that on the back?
It's an alarm. It's a little speaker for an alarm because it had an alarm.
Wow.
Yeah, and I actually at some point I'm going to try to put a battery in here and see if it still works.
Yeah.
And I might make an update video if that ends up working out. But yeah, the display of the LCD display has kind of a gold tint to it too, which is really cool. It's not like that kind of sickly green color. It's more like a gold type tint, so it matches with the style of the rest of the watch. One thing that like is really indicative of my dad's personality, and I hate this box. I hate the way. I mean, I hate the way it's designed. Like it's so silly. Like, and then Armatron all the time in the world. You can see there, but just the way that it's like an Adirondack box. It's like it makes no sense. But that's like 1970s, early 1980s fashion for you. But anyway,
It snaps shut.
it snaps shut. That's a good thing. But this watch, he never used it. He just wanted to buy it. And when my mom gave it to me, it still had the plastic on it. Like, you know, the clear plastic that they put on things.
Yeah.
Still had that on it. He didn't even take the plastic off of it.
Wow.
Which is something he did a lot. Like he would just keep things in the original packaging and like just never use them. And like when I took the plastic off, it left a stain on the metal because the plastic had been on there so long that it actually stained the metal. I was fortunate I was able to like polish it off,
Yeah.
but it was a close call.
Yeah.
And I was like, yep, that's my dad. That's him.
Left his lasting mark on it, man.
Yep. And then here's mine. This is like the least impressive one, but it's an Armatron watch. I had a watch just like this one, but I bought this one as a duplicate because it was on clearance, as you can see, for $25.
When did you get it?
I think about a year ago,
Okay.
like a year to a year and a half ago. And I have another watch just like it that I wore that was in rougher shape. And I saw that this one was on clearance, so I thought, well, I can replace one watch with an exact duplicate. And this one is kind of my style. It's a quartz watch,
Yeah.
modern quartz watch, which quartz is by far the best because quartz watches are kept. They keep time because of a tiny piece of quartz in the watch itself that vibrates at a specific frequency when you put electricity through it. And because they know the exact frequency that the quartz vibrates, they're able to use that to keep perfect time with the watch. So these days, an analog quartz watch is really just as accurate as a digital watch because of that quartz technology. But I like how it has no numbers on it. I tend to prefer watches that don't have numbers. It has just those four slashes with those four marks with the Swarovski crystals, which are really pretty like that. I like watches that have a square face. Something about that just strikes me as really classy. And I like the deep blue color. And so yeah, this is kind of my style right here. And this is kind of this is my generation of watch here. And I need to have a battery put in it so that I can start wearing it again. But I've just been so busy that I haven't gotten around to. And you know where I'm going to go to put the battery in. Don't name the place, but I think you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I like that place. But yeah, so there's that watch.
And I had Timex watches a lot, but then I would say after college or around somewhere in high school, I just stopped wearing them. I think a lot of it for me is that it was a digital watch, but my cell phone pretty much flipped the bill. So it's fascinating in that realm.
Well, our generation, that happened. Like the millennial generation was kind of when watches started falling by the wayside because everybody just started using their phones. Ironically, the pocket watch went back into
I know,
style.
that's what I was just thinking. Yeah, it's like now everybody's using pocket watches.
Yeah, and that kind of thing fascinates me, like the fact that like people text more than they talk nowadays, so it's almost like a modern version of the telegraph system.
Yeah.
And like people check their watch, people have a watch in their pockets because of their cell phone, so it's like pocket watches have come back in their own kind of way. A lot of anachronistic stuff has actually become modern again, and it's kind of been reincarnated in this interesting way. But I just wanted to make this video to kind of showcase these watches because the other video that I made was kind of bloated and was kind of a little long and a lot of kind of non-essential information. This one's a little more stripped down and just showing straightforward, just three generations, three different watches, three different generations of my family. And it's something that I just kind of wanted to get on video because I think that's cool. I think that a watch is very, even though they have kind of become less common, although they have kind of made a bit of a resurgence with the whole, like, I just want a rolly, like certain youth subcultures are really into watches, and I am too. So they are kind of making a comeback in some ways, purely as kind of fashion and not so much for utility. But yeah, a watch is a very personal thing that a man wears, and I think they tend to be more associated with men now than women.
Yeah.
And it's like, this is the watch that, your dad or your grandfather used to get to places on time and to know like what time it was. Like men are very kind of temporal creatures. Yeah. And so a man's watch is a very personal thing. Men used to get gold watches when they retired, that kind of thing. So,
the perpetual motion watch really was cool.
Yeah, I mean that's almost what it is, isn't it? I mean it's just and just the fact that it still worked impressed me so much that I thought to myself, I have to get this on video. But then, and I looked it up on eBay. It's worth a fair amount. Yeah. It's not worth a lot. It's like nothing to get too excited about. It's like in the low hundreds, which is about what a good new watch would cost these days. So it's about the same. But yeah, I wanted to get this on video and then include this one, which I never shared. And then that way it's kind of a 2-for-1. And then just this one to kind of show the progression and like kind of like make my own kind of contribution to represent my own generation of my family. But anyway, I think that does it. And thanks for watching. And if you enjoy hobbyist videos like this, make sure to subscribe to Captain Unusual.